Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour, sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing, Eastside Jiu-Jitsu, and That's Badass Wood Art. Remember to hit like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our latest Vikings content, including this video today. Before we get into final 53-man roster breakdown, we are going to be doing a giveaway here soon. I have with me just this glorious Lake Monster hat. It's fall weather soon, unfortunately. And I feel like these colors go
unfortunately?
Oh my gosh.
Fall weather's the best weather.
Matt,
fall weather is the best weather.
You should have told him. This is your fault, Matt.
I know. I take full responsibility for what's about to happen on this show. But yeah, once we get to 3,100 subscribers on YouTube, we'll be giving away this hat to a lucky subscriber. So make sure you tell your friends and family, hit the like and subscribe.
Fall weather means football weather, baby. Come on.
That's true. That is true. Let's dive in. Tuesday is cut down day for the NFL. We've already started to see some cuts roll in this Sunday, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity. We went through it a couple weeks ago, just position by position, get a feel for where everybody's head is at.
We'll do it better this time. We Matt and I struggled through the last time, so we'll do better.
And thank you also for the people in the chat already joining us. We're curious to know your thoughts as well, so make sure you put them in the comments below as we kind of roll through this thing. So, Ryan, are you ready?
Born ready.
All right. Let's start.
Let's start with Mekhi Blackman. Just see what Ryan thinks.
Just go right from there.
I'm just playing.
Hey, I'm not. No, come on. Hey, we all make mistakes.
It was a joke, bro. I'm just playing with you.
So I think it's the easiest to just go position by position. Let's switch to the defensive line here. This is where things get a little interesting, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Miles, do you have your list in front of you of who you kept on the D line?
The interior D line we're talking. We're not including like outside linebacker, right?
Correct. Yep. Just
correct.
Interior D line.
Yeah. So I have 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
Okay.
It might be 5. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 5, but it was more of like when I look at it, it's between Bullard and Blacklock, because I think Roy's kind of a lock. I think he showed enough during practice when he was healthy and into the preseason game that there's a lot of potential there. But then Blacklock and Bullard didn't dress, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he's considered a lock as well. Okay. But what I could see, kind of what I tweeted this out earlier today, was that I could see the Vikings cutting some veterans like a Bullard, who's vested veteran that doesn't have to go through waivers, cut him, and then you make your waiver claims, keep some of the guys you want to keep that are subject to waivers, and then you bring Bullard back, and then you give him a little bit of a signing bonus as like a reason to come back that he wouldn't be getting otherwise. Like it's more money up front in his pocket, to do that type of thing. I think Munt could be that type of scenario as well on offense. But now we're talking defense. I think we could maybe see something like that with Bullard, where you cut him, keep the Blacklock for now or whatever, and then Roy, and then you bring Bullard back after you kind of make your claims and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I'm going to say 6.
The team.
Miles, let's get over to that comment.
Wait, real quick.
Sheldon
Let me answer.
Day.
Wait, hold on, Ryan. Let me answer next question, then we'll get to Matt.
So Miles, can you list out your full 6 though for me?
Yep. So I have Lowry, Tonga, and Phillips as like your core starters, and then I have Roy, Bullard, and Blacklock as like the backups. So essentially, Roy is your backup nose, Blacklock and Bullard is your backup ends.
So you have a Sezzi getting cut would be the
it's
first.
Just it kind of feels that way. I mean, it kind of feels like a guy that he's a practice squad, candidate to me. Now I'd probably, like, if we're talking in terms of guys that you maybe keep, and maybe Bullard you try to sneak on, or Blacklock you cut Blacklock and keep Otomo. I don't know, but like it's probably like Otomo is kind of like that odd man out right now for me.
I'm not hearing no Sheldon Day coming out of your mouth though.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I just think Sheldon Day has flashed in his opportunities here. I think he was one of the best interior defensive linemen through the first 3 preseason games, and if you depending on how you view Pro Football Focus, I mean, he was ranked a 90 throughout preseason. He got 6 total pressures and a sack. I think he was very disruptive. Now, that is against 2s and 3s. He's not going against starters. And one of those teams might be one of the worst teams in football this year in the Arizona Cardinals. But
didn't TJ Smith have a good camp too?
TJ Smith did too. And I went back and forth there.
And so he's a big boy, right? Like he's a nose tackle.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. I agree with Miles. I don't think Eze Atomo makes the team. Not sure what happened there. I thought he showed flashes last year, but I just don't really think he took that next step. And Jaquelin Roy has played better in his opportunities, but
he's more of like a penetrating interior guy than Otomo is. Otomo is more of that like tweener D end, defensive end in a 3-4-4-3.
Yeah,
I saw that they had him lining up on the edge a few times too, right?
Did they? I missed that. I missed that.
I thought they did, just trying to try him out there, see what happens, and that's usually a telltale sign that they're trying to see everything that he can do and provide on there.
Was your Sheldon Day like reaction because you want him on the team as well, or just more of like, Matt, shut up? What do you think? What do you talk? Yeah.
You know what? I saw Sheldon Day on that roster and I go, when did we sign Sheldon Day?
He's been around for since last year.
He was on this roster. I had no idea. And I was excited because, I liked him back in the day, Notre Dame alum, right? You thought he was going to be something in this league, and he didn't become anything really, but we had him there, and he was producing. So I don't think he makes the team myself. I got TJ Smith making the team just because we do need more of a true nose, and I don't think Jaquelin Roy is a true nose. And nobody else that has the backups, right, can really provide that. Even Tonga isn't really a true nose. So I think we should probably get one actual big boy up there in that position. So I have TJ Smith making the team because I think he had a little better camp.
That's fair.
I got a few more looks, and I don't have Bullard making the team.
Nick, is your list differ?
Wait, real quick. You said Tonga isn't a big – he's like 320.
Well, I mean, when he was drafted, he was smaller. He's
325.
Is he?
Just saying.
So I have them keeping 5, and so I have the main 3, Bullard and Jaquelin Roy. When they drafted Roy, they called him a nose tackle. I don't think he really played that role much, but I think that's what they have in mind. I do think the reason why they might keep 5 instead of 6 actually goes to someone, Matt, that you were highlighting earlier this week on Twitter or X was Marcus Davenport. I think throughout camp they've had him playing inside a decent amount, and I think that front 7 is going to be very flexible and fluid in how they operate. They might have some of their edge guys, start playing down and bring a bunch of different fronts, and so I think they can get away with only keeping 5 up there. I thought Day had a great camp, and good preseason, but at the same time, we saw that with T.Y. McGill last year was a guy that flashed, and it doesn't seem like this coaching staff or front office puts a lot of stock in those flashy preseason performances like other teams might, or like even Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman would before. So I think they can get away with keeping 5. It sucks to see them move on. I always lean towards teams wanting to keep throwing draft picks with Assezi, but I think that what they have now, they feel comfortable with that grouping.
And going back, I kind of think for me, it is 5. Like I think Blacklock.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
I think Blacklock's the odd man out.
We're locking it in.
Yeah,
5 on the defensive line. Linebacker. This is a bigger group now because of the 3-4. But Nick, let's start with you on this. Let's start with you in the linebacker group. You can take it either if you want to do the pass rushers, if you want to do.
Yeah, I'll just start with edge here. I think that obviously they'll keep Daniel Hunter, Marcus Davenport. I think that they like DJ Wanham. I think he's been a lot of speculation early in the offseason as he could be a cut candidate just because of the cap savings and stuff. But for now, unless there's some sort of trade, I think he stays. Patrick Jones. And then I think they keep 5. In general, like I said, going back to my other point with the interior rushers to kind of keep that flexibility up there. I think they go with Luigi Villain. I think that he's shown out more in camp and preseason. I know they gave that money to Andre Carter, but I know there's some interest in teams, but I think that they can sneak into the practice squad just because he hasn't really shown much. From what I have, I can understand if someone wanted to keep Andre Carter instead, but I'll go with those 5 to start. And Matt, do you want me to go with interior as well?
You do whatever you want.
Sure, I'll just roll it in here. I have them keeping just 4 there. I think the main 3, Hicks, Osmwa, and Pace Jr. And then I have them keeping Troy Dye. I think he showed out. I think his main function is going to be special teams. Yeah, exactly. And I think that just based on his role in special teams, you got to keep him there. So those are my 9 for the linebacker position.
I have 9 as well. I think we match 100% there, actually.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Maybe it's between Villain and Whitley. I think it'll be Villain too. But I think Whitley's looked good. And then obviously Carter's a guy like I think you touched on. He's just someone they're not going to let give up on. So obviously it's practice squad. But if they didn't want to risk Carter, which I don't think you have to worry about, but you never know with teams being, because he is a rookie. Some teams still favor rookies more than they do some of the veterans because they have more of a book on them. Whereas the rookies are still going off their pre-draft assessment on these guys. And so maybe a team claims him because they liked him coming out even though they didn't draft him, that type of thing. But so sometimes you don't want to risk a rookie being subject to waivers as you might a vet just for that reason. But yeah, I think it'll be 5 and 4 in general.
Sorry. Isn't it crazy? Just Ivan Pace's ascension. I know we've talked about it here.
No, it's not crazy. Like we gotta stop talking about it like it's crazy. All these teams messed up not drafting him in the 4th. Like
we messed up too. We didn't draft him.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All these teams, all of them, messed up not drafting him in the 4th or 5th. That's where we spotted him. We all kind of mocked him around that area. We liked him. I mean, yeah, he was small, but he plays well. And sometimes you just gotta let the tape talk and not the measurables.
I have too much love for Ivan Pace Jr. I'm wearing my Miami Redhawks. I know he went to Cincinnati for his last year, but he was all MAC with us for 3 years. So I gotta love my guys, just like Ryan loves his Oklahoma guys. But yeah, I think he might. Maybe another conversation, for another time, but he might be the one that's starting on day 1. So it's just kind of crazy the fact that he didn't have to play in the 3rd preseason game as EDFA. We can't speak highly enough about him.
We finally did get clarification though on the Brian Asamoah injury, which was a shoulder injury. But glad to hear that things seem to be behind him. But excited. The one thing that stood out to me in preseason is just how fast all of a sudden we are. We used to be this kind of this slow defense, and then just over the course of a year and a half, we all of a sudden have speed on defense. It's a little crazy. So we agree 9 linebackers then essentially.
Yep.
Bringing our total to 38.
So 38, and then on defense, obviously that's what
we're not going to talk about special teams, by the way.
No, why? So we kind of have to just because, but
it's 41 with that group, but we're not going to give that any worthy conversation here.
So we're looking at, do we say 5 interior D linemen?
Yep.
5 interior D linemen, 5 outside linebackers, and 4 inside linebackers.
So we're at 14 on the defense right now.
Yep. And now we switch over to, I on my sheet I have it just as DBs, but we can split it up in cornerbacks and in safeties. So let's start with corners. Ryan, I haven't given you the opportunity to take a position yet. So what are your thoughts on the cornerback position? Who's making the team? Who's not?
Well, I think we got 4 locks in Murphy, Evans, Blackman, and Booth. Those are going to be the 4 locks, I think. I think, honestly, is it Williams? Is that the special teams ace? Is that his last name?
Najee Thompson?
No, Najee Thompson.
No, Thompson. That's right. Yeah, Thompson. I'm thinking of Joe John Williams. Najee Thompson. I think he makes a team just purely, he's going to be our Matthew Slater, right? He's going to be the special teams ace. He can fill in at cornerback in a pinch. but that's going to be his position. So that puts us at 5. I do think we keep 6. I don't know who the 6 is. I don't even know if the 6 is on the roster. We have Jojon Williams. I think he potentially makes that team just because he's got a little bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's got a little bit of history here. So that unless there's somebody who gets cut that we just really like, and that's the thing. It's like I'm all about like, hey, let's name the top like 4 guarantees, but like that 5th guy or that 6th guy, whatever, on all these position groups, I'm not ready to lock them in just because there's going to be so many guys around the league that are going to be cut or surprise cuts that we may decide to bring in.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Miles, because I did see your back and forth conversation this morning on Twitter. But High Times KG comes in and says Booth is a lock? ? And exclamation point, by the way. You had an interesting conversation talking about whether or not Booth could be a cut candidate. And why you feel like he probably isn't, but it's worthy of a conversation.
Yeah, so I said I don't think he should be a cut candidate more than a trade candidate. I think if you're going to move on from him, you should trade him. Not just because I think you're going to get a lot of value back, but I think they don't have that group in general doesn't have enough talent around it for me to be like, oh, you should just give up on Booth because he's struggled and he's been hurt. Like that to me, as after a 2nd-round pick a year ago, that doesn't mean he's been good. It doesn't mean he has like progressed the way you've liked him to. It just to me means you don't have to give up on a guy so quickly. You really don't. Like there's no rush. Booth doesn't have to see the field. You can still like try and develop him behind the scenes and do those things and kind of see if he can kind of get up to speed. Jesus Christ. You can get up to speed and like those things. But I don't think there's anybody that's truly like holding him back. Like you're not like holding on to anybody that's like vital to this team in order to keep Booth. And so I just don't think it would make sense to move him or cut him specifically.
And he made progress this preseason too. Like he progressively looked better from game 1 to 2 to. I mean, he didn't play a ton in game 3, but like when he played fine. Like we're talking about a guy who has all the talent in the world. Now he's just got to figure it out in the head. And I'm not saying that he will. But I'm just saying, like, you don't give up on a guy with that amount of talent that you got in the 2nd round.
Really early in the 2nd round,
really early in the 2nd round, because he got hurt a bunch in his first year, and then he's making his way back in year 2. Like, and again, of course, it'd be great to see him like take that job from Evans right away. Mm-hmm. Like that would have been great to see.
Or Blackman, or
whatever, right? But like also, Evans has played his ass off. Like we're talking like who's the Seattle guy that got taken in like the 6th round?
Tariq Woolen.
Yeah,
Woolen, right? Like sometimes you just find these guys in the later rounds that actually are really freaking good that we all just missed on, right? And all of us I think liked Evans coming out of Missouri, but like we weren't like that high on him. Look at him now, right? Like he's a baller, and Booth has got to play up to that. But you don't give up on a guy like with Booth's skill set in year 2. There's zero chance.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, and also kudos to Kwesi, because wasn't Evans the guy that he sat in the dark room late at night watching? So that was the one guy he didn't want to leave the draft without. So that's for all you people out there.
Gave up 2 fourths to get him. Uh-oh, Nick's frozen.
Did we lose Nick a little bit?
He's coming back.
He's coming back. There he is.
There he is.
Oh, I didn't realize I was gone. So yeah, I completely agree with what's been said. You have to also think about, from a team perspective, if Booth somehow pans out from here, and he hasn't been impressive so far, the value that you would get from a corner that's skilled like that is incredibly high. So why would you give up on an asset? And we look at Kwesi as a guy that likes to buy low on stocks and move high. He doesn't have to trade any assets for a buy low candidate. He's already there on the roster. So there's no reason to give up on Booth now. There's no one there that's an obvious choice to take his place. We just need to work on keep developing a guy. And also, Booth was hurt a lot last year, and then this is his first year in a brand new defensive system. That's a lot different than the one last year. So just give him some more time to prosper and advance.
And it fits his skill set much better than it did last year for sure.
Yeah. So we have 5 cornerbacks then?
Well, I think 6 if you include Najee Thompson, right?
Thompson's going to be that.
Because 6. I think Joan Williams is a guy you need to keep not just because of the familiarity with the defense, but his size. You don't have that big outside physical receiver like cornerback besides Evans.
Yeah.
Williams is the only other guy with that like skill set. And so I think he's just a guy that at this stage, unless you find somebody that you think could come in and steal that job, I just think like it should be 6 because of a Najee Thompson.
I think it's gonna be 6 with Thompson for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you have 5 like cornerbacks, and then you have Najee Thompson as like your special teamer, and then a guy that's like your obviously last cornerback in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then the final group we get to talk about is the safety group.
Real quick, this T. Kubler, like, it's not that he's not like it's okay to like. I think we're all in agreement that like Booth hasn't lived up to his draft status. I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. I don't think anybody's saying that like he hasn't been bad or that like he doesn't need to improve drastically. It's that not everybody plays or like progresses at the same route that you would like them to. Yes, would it make sense for this team if Booth was doing what Evans was like is doing now? Yeah, and I think we'd all probably feel a lot better about it because we expected Booth to be what Evans is now.
And he may have been had he not gotten hurt last year.
Right. But you also like reverse those roles where like if you think about Evans as the 2nd round pick and Booth as the 4th, you're probably not as upset about it. Like, you know, like if you get that type of play from Evans, it's okay that Booth isn't as good as long as, you know, if Booth can still, you know, be a depth player. Like if Evans was only a depth player and Booth was your starter, we'd be sitting here praising Kwesi Odafe-Mensah for, well, not praising, but we'd be saying how good of a pick it was. But I think if Evans can still stay on that trajectory, and then you look at Booth as like a 4th round pick, I know he wasn't, but I'm just like playing a hypothetical here. Like it kind of makes you feel better about that situation in itself, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. We're all in agreement.
All right. Before we switch to the safety group, the comments, fantastic. T, Kubler, High Times G, KG, Aaron. I mean, there's been a bunch of you guys in here. So thank you for that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and anywhere you get your podcasts. The final group, there's been a lot of talk about this group. It's the safety one. Miles, curious to get your thoughts first on this group.
This might be like the toughest one.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
saving the best for last, man.
Right. Like when we talk about it, so when you look at, you have the obvious locks, like we'll continue to say locks, but like Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, and Lewis Cine. I think those 4 are locks. Now it comes down to Theo Jackson and Jay Ward. And if you keep both those guys, because special teams and just like depth and like versatility, because when you add in this, I think they're going to have a lot of DBs on this roster, no matter what. Because when you add in kind of how Brian Flores likes to play the dime packages, you know, Josh Metellus is kind of playing that star role. You're going to need more DBs than you might need in other defenses. And so I think it's more of like who fits that role. And I personally just really like Jay Ward. Maybe I'm just being a little biased just because I like
got the versatility to play corner too.
Right. And so like there's that in a pinch type of scenario where like he can play a different style of like role for you if you need him to. And maybe you train him to be a Metellus replacement. Now, friend of the show, Josh Metellus, I would say that we want him back, but like, you know how the business is. But then Theo Jackson kind of just stepped up and had a pretty good camp in preseason. So he's a hard guy to like want to let go because he showed enough. And I think Cine might not be quite where we'd like him to be. I'm not saying Cine, I like Cine. I still think there's potential with Cine, but kind of like Booth, he's a guy that hasn't lived up to his draft pedigree to the point where you have guys behind him where I think safety is a little bit more of those guys pushing Cine than there are guys at cornerback pushing Booth in that same way. That's why I think it makes it a little bit harder at safety than it does corner, but you're not cutting Lewis Cine for obvious reasons. But at the same time, I wouldn't have any issues with keeping 6. Now I've stopped doing the math in my head. So Matt, if we do 6,
we're at 20 right now. I think we're at 20.
We're if we keep 6 and have the 3 specialists, we're exactly at 53. So
we can keep 6.
Cool. Okay, I'm going 6 because it like and maybe they don't keep all 6 guys, but like I think at the start of cuts, I think they're going to keep all 6 safety. I just don't see them not to.
Yeah, I have him keeping 6 as well.
Unless we
but like,
swap,
why?
Well, right. But like my only thing is unless they want to swap like a Nick Muse for a Theo Jackson, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't see a Jay Ward getting cut. He's a rookie,
Yeah,
guy they
same.
drafted in the
Fourth
middle
round pick.
rounds.
Yeah.
4th round pick. Like that's not just like a nothing pick. And he's been good enough to stay on a roster as a rookie. I'm not saying he's been
nasty ass hit he just
Right,
had too.
right.
Like,
And I'm not saying he's like your Ivan Pace where like, oh man, that dude's really exceeded expectations. No, he's kind of just been there and made some good plays. Like obviously that sack was legit, but I don't know. I just don't see the need to like cut a Jay Ward at this point. It just wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the only one I can see maybe not making the team is Theo Jackson. He doesn't have the name recognition. He doesn't have the draft pedigree. Maybe you can subject him to waivers and slip him through potentially. But again, like right now, for the sake of this practice, we have the space for him.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to Miles's point though. Like every team has that like that guy where it's like, could you sneak him on? And you most likely probably can. Like I think you could get Theo Jackson on the practice squad.
So I've been pushing the 6 safety train for the last few weeks. So I'm feeling good about our prediction getting to this point. But I would just remind that Theo Jackson was on a practice squad last year, and we swiped him from the Tennessee Titans. And so he was on our 53 for the rest of the year. I think that we really like him. He's a versatile guy. And I think that his stock has only improved through training camp and the preseason. So he's doesn't have the name recognition because I think he was like a 6th or 7th round pick last year. I think that we would struggle to get him through on the practice squad just based upon his history, and we can keep him. He can play versatile role. He can play on special teams. I don't see any reason why we would drop him for anyone else. And then Jay Ward, like. They always talk about a guy being versatile. So what he played corner, linebacker, safety in college. Well, that just means that he didn't specialize in any position. And now that he's getting to the NFL, he's got to specialize in a certain spot. And that's been safety so far. So I think they knew that going in that he was going to need some time to develop and just focus on one position. So I don't see that there's any reason why, they would get rid of Jay Ward after what we've seen. He's not been Willie Beavers level that, which is the last 4th round guy. That we cut. So I'm all for keeping 6 here and this being our 53.
All right. We've done it. There are a couple questions here that I want to get to before we kill this show. Gary asks, I've always wondered how the NFL chose 53 on the roster. Does anyone here know that answer? I'm not sure why they came up with that specific number.
I think it's when you look at this, so it's 11-11 on both sides, so 22. And then you need depth behind each position. So what is that? Like, what's that math?
44.
44. And then you need, I think they probably looked at quarterbacks as like 3 back then. Quarterbacks, specialists. I don't know why 53, but you can kind of get to like close to 50 pretty easily when you just look at like the starters and
backups.
But from there, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's logic somewhere.
Well, they only dress 46 on game days.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So that's also another part. That part I don't know either. Like that one doesn't make sense to me in any way. But yeah.
The last question, High Times KG, any surprise cuts that we see? I think the biggest surprise is probably Jalen Reagor. I don't think anybody here thinks he makes the team.
I don't know if it's a surprise. Maybe if he gets waived and not claimed, I'd probably be a little bit more surprised because I think that's what the Vikings are hoping for if they can't trade him. Let's think of that. Should we go?
There's always a surprise, right?
There is.
Like we do this every year, and then we miss somebody that's like, oh shoot, he got cut.
I mean, I think Booth would be an obvious surprise. Like I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
But like, because I know it's come up, I don't think it's happening. But if it does,
I guess I would hesitate to say a surprise cut, but a surprise trade could be somebody like Ezra Cleveland. Like they could look to trade somebody like that in a contract year.
See, if they had brought in what's his name? Reisner
still could though.
Yes, but like feel like they would have done that earlier and then traded Cleveland. But it wouldn't make sense heading into week 1 to like trade Cleveland now. Now I think come trade deadline, if the Vikings aren't in a good position, I could see them trading away players. But
yeah,
right now, I just don't like if they had a backup to really push Ezra Cleveland, I could see that. But they just don't have anybody behind him. Like who is replacing Ezra Cleveland if you trade him? Like you'd literally have to go out and sign Dalton Reisner. Like you have to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little outlandish, I think, but like, could Cam Bynum be a surprise cut?
No.
They
like
trade maybe, but not a cut.
They like Bynum way too much. Like if Scene had done
just
enough,
trying to think of scenarios.
Yeah, no, for sure. I
crowded
think
room.
If Scene had done enough, like that's a different scenario. But he just hasn't done enough.
Yeah,
to like warrant that. What other positions though?
Real
Patrick
quick,
Jones. DJ Wanham. I'm not saying.
But again,
we
just don't have anyone pushing him, do we? Andre
Right.
Carter, maybe, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
And not that Andre Carter is pushing him, but more so like just the potential of him.
Oli Udoh. Like, could you trade Oli Udoh? Like,
so when I think about this, I think about it from the standpoint of who's got good cap savings if they were to cut him and just not living up to that. So DJ Wano, I think fits that. I think that they might save over $2 million if they let him go. And then they obviously like Andre Carter, they gave him all that money and stuff like that. So
Whitley or somebody,
I could potentially see that. Like, what would they benefit from doing this price cut? Usually, it's a financial reason, right? So,
can we bring Zach McLeod back? That dude just
after the third preseason game, he looks like Reggie White out there.
Yeah. Hey, I did put this on the screen just a minute ago, and I'm going to bring it back. So we have Kepler. I don't know how to say his last name. Kepler. Put out here that we traded up for. I'm assuming he's talking about Booth because he did have a lot of injury history.
He also said Quasi, but Queasy.
Queasy, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, and I'm going to take that off. But the thing is you're going to take risks on players who do maybe have an injury history when you can get them at value.
Yeah.
Andrew Booth at the height of his Clemson career, top 10, top 15 player.
Yeah,
in this,
he would have been a first-round pick. And I know, obviously, he was hurt.
If he had a clean bill of health throughout his college career or maybe one injury here or there, he's a top 15 player. Yeah. His tape showed that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had some injury history. That's why he dropped to the second round. Well, that's a good value there. That's not bad process and by Quasi in that moment.
I also think it's obvious that the Vikings viewed that cliff after him in the draft. Like, you remember when all the cornerbacks kind of went early in the second round too? I kind of feel like
McCreary and Gordon, all those guys.
I kind of feel like they viewed like Booth as the last guy on that like ledge.
Yeah,
and then everybody
else. If Quasi was smart enough to see Woolen as that next guy, right? But obviously that
he wouldn't have fell to the sixth if it was.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't see that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
last question. We're over an hour now, so I want to cut it. But Gary's question after watching the preseason games, he's concerned about our depth. How do we feel about our depth?
We've been concerned about that for years. If you've been watching this show,
I don't think anybody's saying that Wanham's getting cut. We're just talking about surprise cuts and like why they could surprise. Not that we think he will. But I've been worried about it too. I think maybe I thought the bottom of the roster was a little bit better, and now I think in some areas it is. Mm-hmm. But I think what this roster doesn't have is the top end talent in some of the areas that it's had in the past.
Yes. Like
I used to always call this roster like super top heavy with no depth. Now they have a little bit better depth, but the top of the roster isn't as heavy. Besides the obvious guys, but like in terms of like your starters on the defensive line starters, it's just like gross to me. Like not that those guys aren't NFL players, they clearly are. But like I think Harrison Phillips and Kyrus Tonga are more like rotational guys and maybe like starters, but not your top starters. Like you should have two guys ahead of those guys on the depth, or not even on the depth chart, but like playing next to. Like Harrison Phillips should be the third best defensive lineman on your D line, in my opinion, not your first. And so like those types of things.
I think they're counting a lot on that scheme and the multiple fronts and the blitzes to make up for that defensive line. But, sure. I agree. I think that there is depth in select areas. You talk about Kevin O'Connell, Johnny Munt being the third best guy in the league. We're struggling at wide receiver. I think we're pretty good there. I mean, if offensive line, like we have noble guys. I don't feel great about it, but I tackle. I feel good. Obviously, we're talking about keeping 6 safeties. We got good depth there, but it's just like in certain pockets that they're good at scouting that we just need to prove in a few different areas moving forward.
Yeah. I think I agree. So that's all. I think that's, unless you guys have anything else, we just went for a full hour. So Miles, I think, is ready to clock out here for the evening. But I appreciate everybody joining us this afternoon on your Sunday afternoon ahead of roster cut down. That's kind of the group that we have. We'll cut this up into offense and defense as well, so you can listen to just each one individually instead of the full hour long episode here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The season is just a few weeks away, and we have a pretty good content plan coming out for the season. Nick will not be with us the next couple of weeks. He's heading to Europe. So he'll be away as soon as he joins the CTP group. But Miles, Ryan, myself, Jason, Flip will all be here in some capacity. So, we'll be back Tuesday night for a live show, which we will be switching back to Wednesday nights. Not this week, but the week after. So until next time, everybody.
Lake Monster, by the way. At Lake Monster.
That is true. We'll be live at Lake Monster on September 6th. So, yes, thank you, everybody. Until next time, Skol Vikings.